able to get to where I want to be with my business. Next is create habits. So habits is really a big thing whenever you want to succeed in life. It's making sure that you start your day intentionally and you end your day wrapping up your day. So it could be having a morning routine, it could be having a night routine, as long as it's moving you forward in some way, again, towards those goals. Next is once you have your goals, you already know where you're to go in life, and you're still not sure maybe what skills you're bringing on, who you're going to look for as a client, or who you want to work for. Then you want to start focusing on your skills and your niche. So this is now the second part of it, which is first part is just picking your skill. What is the skill that you want to work for, work as? If it was something that wasn't really clear when you graduated, what was the skill that you wanted to do? This is where I'll hopefully help you get clarity. So the first one is, what skill are you good at? This is why it was important to go back and think of what were the wins that you had in previous, in college and high school. What's something that you know that you love? Doesn't even have to be something you love, but probably something you like doing, enjoy doing it, and it's actually again something that people have told you that you're really good at doing. And next, what's a skill that you are curious about? You might be someone who's right now into writing, but you want to go into copywriting or SEO writing, or I know this is a little bit of high, but like if you have any specific things that you want to learn further than the skill that you know now. And what's a skill that you're willing to learn more? Maybe you want to jump into doing a little bit of graphics. Maybe you want to jump into something a little bit more of social media. What is something that you want to grow into? And then once you have that, hopefully, I would love to actually know, depending on who is in here, what's a skill that you guys are looking to get hired for? Just because I might know people, I might also be hiring for that position. But what's a skill currently? Drop it in the chat, and if you're too shy, feel free to just chat it directly to me. What's a skill that you're trying to be hired for? I would love to know. Um, so then, if other people are also hiring, they would know to ask you. Waiting on in the chat. What's a skill that you're currently, if you are any, trying to get hired for? Anyone? Don't see any chat, so I'll just keep moving forward. Okay, so we have from Hendrik, of course, leadership and communication skills, writing and editing. It's a good one. What else? Technical skills. That's good. So at least you have, it's really important that you know at least, or at least have some clarity on the kind of job that you want to be hired for, because then it's, of course, it's going to be easier for you to start hunting. Next is picking your niche, which is essentially just picking the kind of uh, person that you want to get hired for, the kind of company you want to get hired for. So the first one is picking out what your hobby. So this is more specifically really if you are looking to be hired by someone one-on-one, is you're trying to pick again the industry that you want to be in. So looking at what your hobbies are, is you're looking at what are you already interested in. So for example, for Janelle who wants to go into writing and editing, what's something that you maybe like to write about? What's something that you're interested in? It's, for example, let's say one of your interests is I'm just thinking about this out loud. So let's say business. That's something that you like, following people who are on YouTube or on TikTok who are into business. That's something you're interested in. So that might be something that you can start off as a person that you can get hired for. And again, what are you currently following or subscribing? What are you already ingesting? A lot of the time, if you want to be expert in something, we ingest a lot of that information. So what is that thing? So then you want to look into, if you're still not clear what kind of skills you want, I do have a lot of lists. These are basically different skills that you can get started as if you have no idea where to go. So we have the usual basic skills, so which is inbox and calendar management, which is more becoming a virtual assistant. It could be transcription. It could be going to blog management. For creative skills, it could be copywriting, doing video editing, brand kit creation. These are marketing skills. So you can already see from this list of different skills and tasks what kind of person you might go into if it is something that you haven't actually thought of before. So this is already a good snapshot of like, hey, I want to do this, or I'm interested in this. Write those down. I said, I know I said you don't have to screenshot, but like write down what are the different skills that you're currently wanting to go into, because that's something that you can start building yourself up towards as you are searching for your next job. Next is we have some niche examples. So these are different things that you can go into. So let's say you are someone who really loves books and you want to work for authors. So you want to look at, there's different romance authors, self-development authors, paranormal authors. If you're someone who's into crafts, what kind of craft? Is it in origami? Is it in woodworking? If it's health, is it nutrition? Is it doing keto? Is it weight gaining or weight loss? So you want to be specific again of what kind of person or company you want to work for, because again, it'll make it so much easier for you later on once you actually start hunting for jobs. Next is once you have that, you have your goals, you have the skill that you really want to learn, and you have your niche, you have the person that you want to work for, then we're going to go into different tools. Now, depending if you want to work from home, which again is my specialty in training, or if you want to look for an office job, you might want to consider these tools. So the first one is having a good laptop. Now, I define a good laptop as a laptop that's at least i3 and is pretty like secondhand is good as well. It doesn't have to be a brand new laptop, but it's one where you can actually get started working. And of course, having good internet connection helps a lot. So being able at least 5 to 10 Mbps to be able to at least do calls or meetings with your client as you need to. And having your own earphones is a really good thing to invest in, especially if you're going to go into working from home. You don't want to have everyone else in the house overhear what you're talking about. And also, it's just good manners as well if you're going to be working at coffee shops or in different places to just have good earphones. And having a work email. So, work email, I define it as if you're going to be applying for jobs, don't apply as, and this is a real email that I had at one point in my life, leannelovesyou@yahoo.com. Don't use that. Use a professional email that you can use for when you're submitting your application, or for at least communicating with your client back and forth. This can be really simple as just your name. It can be something where you put a dash in or a dot in to just make it something unique if it's already taken, but have a work email that this is where you check. Don't make it a personal email, it's a work email. It could be even, leanneworks at gmail.com. So it's really up to you, but having some way where when you send an application, it's not something that will be a red flag in the employer's mind of like, why is there work email like this? So make sure that it's professional sounding at the very least. And then always have a paper and pen nearby to make notes. Like even if I have my computer up, I always still have a post-it nearby just in case of any ideas, or in case a client gives a task, for example, all of a sudden, having some way to capture those tasks. Next is the part that I know you guys are looking forward to, which is your application kit. Now, at this point, I do want to know, for those who are here, are you guys more interested in looking for a job working from home, just so I can be more specific? Or is it more of working for an office job? I would love to know in the chat, because then I can customize the way that I've been speaking to you guys to that kind of way. Yeah. Are you guys looking for work from home? Or are you guys looking for an office job? And there's no shame in either. Work from home is something that an option that has now really been, of course, more popular with the pandemic. And an office job is still something that to aspire towards. So yeah, are you guys more into work from home, or are you guys more into an office kind of job? Let me know in the chat. So we have an office. What everyone else, mostly office, work from home, office job. Okay, got it. So then again, I can customize, I can balance with both. All right, so when it comes to your application kit, so this is the things that you need to prepare for once you have everything else that we talked about before, to keep yourself moving forward. So first thing is your resume. You need to have a really good resume to prepare yourself. And this is kind of, think of it as kind of like, this is a funny example. Think of it as like, if let's say you're on Tinder or Bumble or whatever dating app is on there right now, that is the first profile that they will see. That's going to be their first impression. That's going to be your Facebook profile, Instagram profile. This is where they will look to get to know you better. So this has to be something that is edited, has to be double checked to make sure that the information is correct. I usually recommend using Canva for templates. No worry, I dive into each of this a little bit more, and always make sure that you always keep it up to date. and then remove any unnecessary data like awards or conferences that are unrelated. And you make sure you want to customize it for the job that you're applying for. So what I mean by this is, let's say that your previous experience has just been in restaurants and you want to apply for a job where you are in a secretary at an office. You want to make sure that you tweak it a little bit to showcase more of experiences that will relate to that. So let's say, again, in that restaurant job that you were doing, and you're applying for a secretary for an office, what that would look like is, instead of saying, oh, I was able to do this in this order, blah blah blah, we say I was able to handle different customers of different backgrounds. I was able to make sure that I submitted any reports that I needed to do. So make it relevant to the position that you're applying for, and use bullet points. One of the things that I am honestly is pet peeve of mine when I'm looking at resumes is looking at really long essays of like what they did and for that previous job. So bullet points is really an easier way for the recruiter to look at really quickly what was your relevant experience instead of having to read your life story on a resume. So what this looks like is, again, make sure that you have your name really clearly. Again, this is all created through Canva. It's really free. You don't have to pay for anything. Just create your resume on Canva and put in the job title that you want to apply for. Now, one of the things I really coach a lot of my students before was to make sure that you can even customize it. That's why Canva is really useful, because you can really change the name of the job title to what is the job title that they're hiring for. Then you can download that. You can customize even the file name so that you know which employer you're sending it to. And it's just a good way to make a good impression. It's just a good way for your employer to say, like, hey, this person took much more of an attention to detail versus if they were someone else. So this is something that for me, even it still impresses me whenever someone does this, of like when I'm looking at someone's resume after they've been filtered out and I see that they copied the job title that we used. So for example, we'll say, executive assistant to a technical officer or executive assistant to a content creator, and they put that there, Lian Layla Kabat, and executive assistant for a content creator. I'm really impressed by that because you're putting attention into detail. You're putting attention into something that people usually would not notice. So that's the importance of probably like changing up the job title or making it custom. And then you want to go into your objective or your introduction. Usually this is just a sentence. It doesn't have to be a really long thing. And it's just to show what is that, kind of like why they need to hire you and how you can help them. So for example, for this one, since I'm applying as a content writer, I would say, I aim to create relatable and engaging content to showcase your company's services and products. So that's what I used to do when I was a content writer. Is I would create content for them to gather interest for people that they wanted to work with, for their customers, for their future clients. So that's how I was going to help them. You have to keep in mind when you are getting hired, you're getting hired because they have a problem. They have something that they want to solve, which is why they're trying to hire you. So it could be, again, if they're hiring a writer, they need someone to be able to reach to other people without having to create the content themselves. If you are getting hired as a call center agent, they need someone to be able to fulfill a position where they need to help out with their customers. If you're getting hired as trying to think of any other more office position jobs versus work from home. But if you're getting hired, that's the main thing that you want to keep in mind is you are getting hired to solve a particular problem. So you want to deep dive. It could be based off of the job ad that they wrote out. It could also just be logical thinking of like, okay, why would they need this position? Like, oh, they need a bookkeeper to be able to keep their numbers straight. That's going to be your objective and intro. Next is you want to, of course, make sure you have your contact info. This is something that a lot of people still miss of putting in how we can reach out to them. And it's actually a little bit frustrating when we can't like, oh, their phone number is not right or their email address isn't, they're not responding to it. So you want to make sure that your contact info is as accurate as you can. Next is, of course, the experience section. So for what you have here, again, a bullet point list of the experiences. It doesn't have to be a long thing. The job position that you were in when you were in that position, the timeline of how long you were there, because that's something that as employers we do look at, and the highlight of what you've accomplished and which skills you've learned with them. So for example, for this one, for each position that I've had, so for example, starting when I was a freelance writer, I would write up articles and captions for clients. These are the tasks that I was able to do. So this is a skill that I've now learned moving forward. When I was a head junior writer for a magazine, I would interview persons of interest, and then I would write up feature articles. And then when I moved up to working in Cebu Daily News as an intern journalist, I would be on site for news items and write up assigned news items. So you can see how my skills have evolved basically in the last couple of years. And if as an employer looking at this like, oh, she knows how to do this skill and she knows how to do that, she's brave enough to be able to talk to people for interviews. Or if being hired as a journalist, for example, she's used to being on site, she's used to being traveling around and going to these different places. So it gives them the sense of like, oh, I know where to place this person based on this list of skills and what they've learned so far. And of course, when I at one point in my life, I was running a publishing company, so I was CEO of that one. So I helped launch book launches. I would build marketing systems and hire managed employees. This is now something, again, as an employer looking at this, I'm like, oh, she knows how to do this, do that. So these are now the different projects that she can do. And so when you do this, you make it really simple for your future employer to know what to do with you, to know where to place you, to know what the problems you're helping them solve as they are thinking of hiring you. Next is your education, which is just have a clear note of where you graduated. This has been less and less something that's important for different employers, but it still depends on the position they're trying to hire for. If they're hiring for a very specific marketing position or a sales position, having your education background in that is going to help. And of course, it still really depends. For example, for me in 2XU, a lot of our assistants have been engineers, have had a variety of different fashion designers as a background. But once we train them up, experience is really what we focus on. But again, for different employers, this is still something that they do hold weight on. And then they further even ask questions like, I have a specific position that we're hiring for that needs marketing experience. Then I ask them, like, okay, what was your marketing experience in college and all of that? So this is still something relevant to a lot of employers who are hiring. Next is achievements. So I have seen achievements where they would say third place in Miss So and So University. That is not a relevant experience for the position you're trying to hire for. You want to be hired for. You want to make sure that you clean this up, highlight achievements that are relevant to the job position. So, for example, on here I put it that in high school I was able to win first place as a feature writer. I was a fellow for a workshop. I am a Toastmaster. At one point, I won an awardee locally for being a writer, and then I'm an international speaker. So again, I'm applying for a writer. So I put in any and all of the achievements that I've had as a writer. So you want to make sure that you do this as well, as depending on the position you're trying to get hired for, is you highlight achievements that are actually relevant, again, to the position that you're trying to get hired for. And of course, at the very bottom, you want to make sure that you add any other relevant places where else they can see your work. So, for example, for me, I used to have a really good big portfolio of all of my writing. It's still on my website, leonlai.com. So that's another place that a future employer could look at, like, oh yeah, this is everything else that she's written before, and then show that you're active in all of these places. I have my Facebook on here, my Instagram. So that's another way that they can see what I've been doing, what I've been up to. So make sure that you've cleaned your Facebook or your Instagram if this is something that you are going to show your employers. A few bonus tips is there are companies that use a software to filter out resumes. What that means for you is make sure that you want to create a simple one-page resume without a lot of formatting, have it in your one color, and don't overstuff your keywords. It could be that you might be creating your resume just on a Word document. It could be that you're creating it on a slide and you download it as a PDF. Just make sure that it doesn't have a lot of images, unless of course you're getting hired as a graphic artist, because you want to make sure that it's if I remember right, the name is it's called an ATS, but it's an automatic I'm forgetting the term right now. But it's a way basically that it just runs through software. If it has too much of this and this and this, it gets auto rejected. So you want to make sure that you clean up your resume as much as you can, and not a lot. Don't add a lot of fluff. And these are a few keywords to avoid in your resume. So the first one is go-getter. Usually that's something that's too generic, and something that could kind of make an employer shy away. Next one is go-to person. Another one is results driven, detail oriented, proactive, hard worker, self motivated, team player, and thought leader. These keywords usually are filtered out of like, okay, this person might not be serious, or they might be just grabbing these keywords from somewhere else. Instead of using these keywords, you want to use examples of you being a go-getter. You want to use examples of you being someone who's proactive. So it could be that when you write out your resume on one of the bullet points, instead of saying proactive, you can say started a X and Y project inside of our company that then helped this result. So you're showing, instead of telling, you're showing them how you're proactive, how you're a team player. You can say I was able to lead a whole project from start to finish and be able to deliver the results that was asked. So again, try to avoid just one line and make sure that you give actual examples, because one thing that does happen later on is as your resume is being looked over, they'll look, okay, so give me an example of you being this and being that. And if you're not prepared, it's going to be a little bit jarring, and it's better to just make things simple for yourself. And again, customize based on who you're applying to, or for the position that you're applying for, as much as you can. Of course, if you're trying to apply for 10 different jobs, it might be a little bit harder, but as much as you can, you want to try to at least get the attention right away of the recruitment officer. And of course, check your grammar and spelling. Use tools like Grammarly and Hemingway. These are two free tools that you can use to double check your resume. Make sure that it's clean. One thing I always tell my students is double, triple check everything else before you send it out, because you never know who's looking at it. And of course, you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward when you're trying to apply for a job. And keep updating. Check other people's resumes, look at how they're doing it, update your skills, and make sure that your objective is always clear. Make sure that you always have a good heartbeat on what's the problem that you're solving for this company. And other sections that you could keep adding, this is something that's not always relevant, but something you can add in your resume, is writing out the skills that you currently have that are relevant to the job. So for example, if I'm applying as content writer, I might add in there that I've been a graphic artist. I might add in there that I have background in marketing, but I won't add probably that I can do, admin tasks. I probably won't add a few things that I know I'm good at. I only add the ones that my client would say, oh yeah, this is really good, this is really bright, we actually need somebody in this position, and so on and so forth. And on interests, I've seen people list down that they love Big Bang Theory, that they read this in the Soul book, and I like that for me as an employer, but sometimes it's a little bit off-putting to read that. I would rather read and go through and get to know you, that you love Big Bang Theory, rather than looking at it at your resume. Okay, next is now part of your application kit is your portfolio. Now, I won't dive into this a little bit more since most of you are looking for office jobs, but for those who are work from home, it's a portfolio is a way for you to show off your best work. It can include non-paid work. So a portfolio, if you have no idea what a portfolio is, it's basically a way for you to show that you can do what you say you can do. So again, earlier I mentioned that on my website, I still have the articles that I've written. I still have the old work that I've done, even though I'm never going to be probably applying for a job ever. I still have that as a portfolio, just in case I get bored or wanting a side gig for myself. And what I mean by non-paid work, it could be work that you just did for yourself. If you are an artist, it's just work that you enjoy doing. You can include that in your portfolio, and it also can be sample work or certification that you've gotten and what you've learned from them. For me specifically, when hiring an executive assistant, I'm always really impressed when they take workshops like this that you guys are attending, because that shows that they are someone who is wanting to study, when they're wanting to learn more about the world, they're learning more about the skill that they have, and they're just not compliant to what they already know. So when you show off certifications that you've learned, although this is not always a requirement, but for me, it's always impressive when they do study on their own without it being mandated by their boss or their job. It's something that they naturally just wanted to do. And it can be a quick link. It could be on a website that you created. There's a lot of different ways they can create food websites nowadays. There's just putting it on Google Drive or etc. Just make sure that it's easy for them to access and look through, and also share. That's the other thing, is when you create a portfolio, as a creative, that gets shared and passed over different people. So you want to make sure that's easy for them to access. Now, the last part of the application kit is your application letter. Now, I think I'm going a little bit too fast throughout this. I noticed that we're only 38 minutes, but this is all. this is all kind of, I want to have time a lot for questions later. So if probably finish about a few more minutes based on where I know we're at on my presentation. So the first one is on your application letter. It is a formal introduction to who you are. When an employer writes out a job ad, this is like, hey, we're looking for this person. And if you're able to match your application letter to the job ad, it's a formal introduction of like, oh, this person might be the one that we're looking for. It is also known as a cover letter. It's known for different names, but it's basically the same thing. You are showing your intent to apply for this job, that you want this job, and this is something that you want to move forward in. It is a letter informing possible employers where you're also qualified for the job. If you're looking for a specific position, and if you guys, for those who chatted, different office jobs, if you can give me an example of what kind of office job you're trying to apply for, then again, I can make this more specific as an example. But it is more of, again, going back to the application letter, it's you're showing like, hey, this is the kind of person that I want to become. Part of it is having this job. And it's a reply to the job ad. Again, like I said earlier, when an employer writes out a job ad, this is like, hey, this is what we need. It's a problem that we need solving. This is the kind of person who we see can solve this problem. You're replying to it. Don't think of it as something that's your, like, I'm just throwing yourself out there. You're replying to a need that they already have, and you are the solution to it. You're not a maybe solution. You are the solution to the problem that they're currently facing of why they even need to hire for this position. And again, it's an introduction to yourself, and make sure that you have the best ways to contact you, and of course what you're looking forward to. As you're applying for this job, what are you looking forward to? Is it growth? Is it being able to have really high compensation? You can actually say that. If this is something you are passionate about, is something that you are wanting to keep moving forward in your life, whatever that is, what is it that you're looking forward to if you do end up getting this position? So I do have templates for you. This is something, these are templates that I've given before. If you go to lianlai.com/WAC templates, that's Work Anywhere Challenge templates, you guys can see the different templates I'll be showing in a little bit as well on how to write up your application letter. So on writing your actual application letter, you want to make sure that you research the company that you're applying for. Don't just send out, again, mass application. Don't just send it like, hey, look, you're looking for this person, I'm your person. Actually research the company and look into their website, their social media, see what they're about, who they are, what they value. Look for their HR manager is, or the boss. So look at who the person you're going to address the actual application letter to. What are their goals? What are they aiming towards? So for example, someone who's applying for to XU, they look at, okay, this is to XU and this is the client that you're going to apply for. Okay, what are their goals? What are they actually trying to accomplish? You want to also look at, has this position been filed before, and what were they doing? Are you replacing someone in that position? Did they move up? Did they get fired? Did they quit? And what were the tasks that they were doing before? And that's something you might able to ask the HR manager later on, or maybe something that's on their website. Is this person who was at this position has now just been promoted, and that's why they need the position filled. The importance of this is you're also looking, as an applicant, you're also looking for red flags. It's not just one-sided where the employer is looking at red flags for you. You also want to look at red flags. Why are people quitting? Why are people leaving, if they are? Or why have people been kicked out? Was it a political reason inside of the company? Was it a really have to downsize? There's a lot of different ways to find out if this is a company that you can stay at long term as well. And you also look, speaking of, you want to also look at employee reviews. How have people rated them? There's different sites like LinkedIn or Glassdoor that you can look at. That would be a resource for you to check if they are a good company or not. If you want to keep applying for a job that actually doesn't treat their employees right, because of course you're going to quit or leave later on anyway. And so next is then a format that you can follow is just, again, think of it as you're replying to the job ad. One way that I've done this step by step with different students that I've had before is I would have the job ad on one side of the screen, the application on the right side, and I would almost match the way that they're looking for. So if they say, looking for an energetic writer for so-and-so position, then I would put, hey, I am the energetic writer that you're looking for. So this shows that you are attention to detail. This shows that you are someone who sees what they need, and you're not just mass applying. Again, make sure that it's introduction to yourself, having the best ways to contact you, and what you're looking forward to. So now I'm going to dive into, before I write out like what that application letter could look like, I'm going to dive into a little bit of the email etiquette 101. So things to keep in mind when responding online in general, not just for sending out application letters. So the importance of this is you come across as more professional. I've had people who, for the lack of a better term, are rude when it comes to responding on email just because they don't have the email etiquette. And I don't want to keep moving forward with them anymore, because if they show me this even at the application stage, what more if they're actually hired? And it's also a way to avoid the spam folder. If you are someone who is just spamming people, I have had the experience where and sadly more than once, received an application letter and it was CC'd through 10 other HR companies. So I was like, okay, that's a red flag. So you want to make sure that you avoid this. And that's why it's really important that you customize your application letter as well. And of course, getting a higher reply rate. As the examples that I've used earlier, it then compels the HR, the recruiter, to actually reply to you and to move your application forward. So what are the elements of the email? So first one is, of course, your subject line. This is your introduction. This is a way for them to want to click on your email. If it's very generic, if it's very spammy, then of course they won't open it. And this is where they would look at right off the bat on what the email is about. So it should be a good summary. So if you're applying for a job, application for, X, the position for, and then you put in your name even, to make it customized. One thing to keep in mind with subject lines is if you have the same subject line as someone else, it will actually get lost and added into a thread. So you want to make sure that you customize. Inside of 2XU, when we're asking people to apply for jobs, we actually tell them, hey, make sure that your subject line is, this position, technical assistant, and then your last name. We actually require them to do that, or else they'll get lost in a thread of other similar kind of subject lines. Next is, of course, salutation. You basically just hello. It's best that, again, the reason why you want to research who the HR manager is or the boss is you want to customize it, this part of like, hello, Miss Blank. And again, customer to their name. And then next is the body of the email. So, has to be straight to the point. And then the sign off, which has the next step for them. So what this means is, hey, looking forward to your reply on X, Y, and Z. Hey, we're looking forward to the interview, looking forward to this. So if in the job ad, they have written out what the next step is, make sure that you put it here. And then your signature, which is just your name and your contact details. Excuse me while I cough. Like I said, I'm still recovering from being sick the whole week, so I might pause from time to time. So does this make sense for you guys, by the way? I want to do a quick check-in and not just keep blabbering on for the rest of this. But does the elements of an email make sense for those who have sent an email and for those who have no idea what it could look like, that it could look like this? And you've probably just been sending direct emails without having this structure. Does this structure make sense for everyone? Okay, so a bunch of yeses. Awesome. I'm gonna use the pause as a way to drink, pause for a way to drink water as well. Okay. And last part is attachments. Make sure that you attach them. Sometimes it's funny because Gmail has now done it where you say attached here, and when you click send and you actually haven't attached anything, Gmail will actually warn you like, hey, you haven't actually attached anything. So double check that you do so. So now actually writing your application letter. So again, make sure that you grammar and spell check it. Make sure that it's a customized subject line because you don't want to get lost in someone else's thread. And it's a customized letter for the company. Try to keep it to one page. Don't make it a long thing about your life story because it's going to be something that, if someone is filtering like 100 applications, you want to make sure it's straight to the point. And paste in the email, not attachments unless asked. Don't paste because sometimes if you attach something, they might have a limit. Like some company emails can only do like 5 MB or 5 gigabyte. So make sure that you paste links in the email and don't attach it unless asked. And then make sure to follow up. Now, this is a good structure of a application letter. So first one is, again, your greeting. So let's say you were applying to me for a position. So you say, hey, good day, Ms. Lakaba. My name is Anne Maverick. This is a response to an amazing job ad for a kick-ass SEO writer. So they've copied the job title that I put in when I put out the job ad, and they've already commented like, hey, this is a response. This is like, hey, you said that you need this. I'm the person for that. And then you put in the relevant experience that you've had. I've been an SEO writer for a few months now, helping amazing YouTubers such as yourself write descriptions for their videos so you can get seen by more people. Again, you're already showing what the solution that you're bringing as you are going to get hired by them and what it is that you specialize in. And you've helped other people in the same position. I've watched a few of your videos, and I must say, with a few tweaks to your description, your video should get the amazing views it should get. So it could be that you could even mention like, hey, I've helped this YouTuber who had this very old video tweak their description, and now they're getting this much views because of the SEO skills that I have. So again, showing the solution that you're bringing as you are getting hired and added into their team. And you can find my portfolio of past works here, and put a link unless they say that you can attach. Looking forward to hearing from you. I can be contacted easily through this email or on Facebook, and you might even want to hyperlink to your Facebook, and then Anne. So you're writing out everything else that they need right away, right off the bat of like, hey, this person is speaking my language. This person is talking to me, how they can help me. So this is a quick and easy way to get their attention, and it's also straightforward, easy, straight to the point. You can say, you can even add like, hey, here's a link to my resume right here. Oh, by the way, the fun thing about Canva is you can click share link, and you can use that as a link to that then redirects to your resume. So then you're making sure that you're making it as easy as possible for the hiring manager to see you as a potential employee. That's kind of the real goal of the application letter in this sense. So one thing that you always keep in mind is emails can get marked read, buried, or simply went into spam. So I always recommend that you follow up after 3 days. So sometimes when I used to be doing the hiring for 2XU, I would be on my phone reading through applications, and I would forget to mark something unread. So that's why you want to make sure that you follow, because you literally could have just been lost. If you haven't heard from an employer in 3 days, you want to make sure that you do that follow up. So a quick and easy follow up email template is you say, hello, my name is your name, and I sent an application to your amazing company a few days ago. I would like to follow up on the status of my application with the subject line and the subject line here. So you want to make sure that it's easy for them to find and look through your application. Then you say, looking forward to reply, and then cheers. So it doesn't have to be this big complicated thing, big scary thing. You can even have this as a reply to your original email. However, I recommend that this is a separate one, because if your email might have been flagged by having too many links, because sometimes that happens with Gmail. So you want to make sure that if you can have this as separate email, and you can even have the subject line be following up on application. Just keep it super simple, because then it's going to be easy for them to be able to find the first email that you sent. Next is, once you start sending out applications, make sure that you actually track your applications. Make sure you're not just sending them out to the void. You're actually writing down where and who you've sent applications to. So you want to track the following: when you applied. So this is going to be easily done in a spreadsheet that you might have on Google Sheets. Is basically quick and easy. Just when you apply, the dates, the email you apply to. You want to make sure that you take note of the email you apply to, the link to the job post so you can go back to it, the status. So the status is sent application, they replied, for follow-up, and then when you last contacted them. So every day as you're applying for jobs, you can look at the last contacted them and say, oh, I haven't heard from them in 3 days. I want to follow up. The way that you can also do this is if you're applying through job sites like MyNemo, where you are not emailing them, you want to just make sure that you take note of the job post and the employer that you applied for, because then later on you might want to dive into their website and find their careers, and then follow up through that way. So next is, where can you actually apply for jobs? And before I jump into that, on tracking your application, does this make sense for everyone? Of make sure that you have a way that you've tracked previous jobs that you've done before. Does this make sense? Because a lot of people do miss this of making sure to follow up. I'm always impressed whenever people follow up when their application have fallen through the cracks. Does this make sense? So making just say, quick and easy table. It could be even a document that you update it once in a while. But it's just a list of different employers that you've applied for. Does this make sense? Let me know in the chat. So next is now actually where to apply for jobs. So there's a lot of online platforms that you can apply for. Of course, you want to make sure that you create your profile if it's a platform that you have to create your profile with, and finish any and all tests. So different sites will have like an English test for you, for them to be able to see. There's sites where you will have to do a test on your computer if it's a work from home job, and then make sure that you verify your account. You put in a lot of the information that they would need, and answer any and all skills rating, and then of course start searching for your job skills. So you make sure that you just verified and you look like you're a legit person on this platform before you start applying. So there's different online platforms you can apply for. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, there's my Nemo, there's JobStreet, Indeed, and Caliber. These are different sites that I have used myself to as we're applying for assistance. So you can look at these like, oh, these are different places that I can jump into. And again, it's the same thing. You create a profile and you apply for, and there's also, of course, if you're looking for an online job, it's onlinejobs.ph. So there's different ways that you can find platforms to apply into. Another way that you can apply for jobs that not a lot of people think about is Facebook groups. So try to make sure that you optimize your Facebook account. Join Facebook groups related to your niche or the industry you want to be in. So if you're trying to become a bookkeeper, you look for bookkeeper related Facebook groups, basically places where other people would post for jobs that they're looking for, and search the word hiring, or your job skill in the search bar, so you can see right away who has posted before that they're looking for this kind of person, and then send them a message or find another way to contact them online. Because sometimes if someone posts on a as an example, if someone posts on a virtual assistant group, they would have a lot of messages come in. So but if you make sure that you specifically just email them, or you find another way to message them other than directly on Facebook, that's another way that you can stand out. Next is, of course, LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been a more and more popular for Philippine employers to find people on. They've sometimes even reach out directly to someone's LinkedIn account. So you want to go to the jobs on the search bar, find a job that you're skilled in, apply to the form, and research the company, and then make sure to follow up. Or you can search your niche, the type of job they want to apply for, start connecting, and then ask if they're hiring. You can directly, if you found the recruitment officer, or if you found the founder, like, hey, is this something? These are my skills. Again, probably a more concise version of your application letter, and just ask them if they're hiring. Next is, if you have a dream company that you have, research the companies that you want to work for on Google. Look at their career section and apply and follow up. Some of these companies that you want to apply for are willing to give work visas or willing to fly people in if you have the specific skill that they're looking for. So you never know. And I've known a lot of people myself who have done this, who've just gone through someone's careers page, and next thing that I know that they're flying to the next country because they were accepted. So don't, just because you are here in the Philippines, don't limit yourself to finding a job that's here in the Philippines. Next is, you can also start Googling a list for your niche. So search top 10 niche. So search top 10 bookkeeping agencies, or top 10 sales agencies. So you want to look at what are the top 10 companies that Google recommend. Top 10 travel bloggers, Broadway YouTubers, Sims 4 gamers, if that's an interest that you want to go into. And then you want to look at their site or their pages and find a career page. Look if they have the need, and look for the need for your skill. So if you look at their, if you're a graphic artist and you look at their Facebook posts and they suck, you don't even have to put out a hiring page. You say, hey, I can make your, don't tell them that they suck. Just say, hey, I can make your Facebook posts way better. So you're already offering your services without them thinking like, hey, I think we need to upgrade our posts. And the next thing is, you can look at other lists. So I have this is a list that I've garnered in the last couple of years. If you want to become a writer, you can go to bli.com/writers list. That's going to be a PDF that shows up. Same thing with graphic artists, and 20 other places they can apply for online. These are mostly, again, work from home. That's because that's my specialty. But if you go into it, and that's something you can play around in and search for as well. And if last place, I guess, that you can, no, second to last place, they can ask for jobs is just asking, post on your profile, hey everyone, I'm taking a course on how to work from home or how to work online, and I'm looking for any free or paid work as a skill. Does anyone I know hiring? So you just putting yourself out there like, hey, looking for this job, or hey, I just lost my job. It's not really any shame in that, honestly. I'm looking for work in this position. You never know who's hiring. I have helped a lot of my students get hired this way, of my own friends, or my own friends who are business owners, who say, hey, I need someone in this, like, hey, this person here. Or in the reverse of like, someone of my friends posting this, hey, I actually know this person hiring here. So you never know who can be a connector. So, again, no shame in losing a job or looking for a job. Again, you can also post in different Facebook groups of like, hey, everyone, my name is, and then I'm learning to become, the skill. Does anyone need a skill? I'm willing to work for free to build my portfolio. And this is if you don't have any experience prior to this. And of course, there's always just looking for job fairs. There's actually one upcoming. If you're from Cebu, there's actually one upcoming this next week, I think. So you want to go to Facebook groups, you want to search job fair and attend the job fair with your printed out resume as much as you can, just so it's ready for them to look at. And note the companies that you've applied for to follow up later. Again, the importance of following up. So you can take their business card, you can take a picture of their booth, and or take go to their website, save it on your phone or something. Just make sure that you already have that list of people that you can follow up with later. And then you can sign up for newsletter events from My Nemo. There's a lot of different job sites that also do the same, just as long as you're keeping yourself up to date. Um, and as a bonus of places where you can ask for jobs is ask your old boss. Email or chat someone you already worked for before and ask them if they're hiring or if they know someone who might need your skills. This is something you can do pretty quickly. If your boss hates you, probably not ask them because they might not refer you in the right way. But if they loved you, then of course you might want to ask like, hey, I'm actually looking for another job or something, and can you refer anyone to me? So next part. So once you've applied, we actually want to go into preparing for the job interview. And I'll breeze through this a little bit because this is something more to focus on in another workshop, because doing an interview is going to be a deeper thing. So when you're preparing for your job interview, make sure that you keep in mind that you've got this far because you have the skills. You just have to actually close the deal. Keep in mind that everything is learnable. If the client asks you something that you don't know, you can always research it. And at this point, they don't need to know more of your skills. They need to see you as a coworker. They will ask you questions like, hey, how will you do this certain thing? But they're not asking you about your skills anymore. They're asking, okay, how can I see this? How can I see myself working with this person? Again, know that they need you as much as you need them. You don't, but don't be too confident. Know that again, you're solving a problem for them, so you want to approach it as that, and be just your true self, and then breathe and smile. And of course, this is important, and a lot of people forget is ask questions. Again, you're also getting to know them. So when you're getting to setting up an interview, if it's a work from home interview, some employers, even if you're doing an office job, they might be setting up a online interview. Make sure that you have fast internet, good webcam placement. I've had people who are too close to the webcam, or they were using their phone to do Zoom and it's in a weird angle. Make sure that you wear work clothes. You can wear a jacket on top of your shorts at the bottom. That's fine. Make sure that you have a good clean background and your face is actually also shown, and a quiet place to listen and talk. I've done interviews with people where they were at a coffee shop that was really loud. It was really hard for both of us to hear each other. So make sure it's a quiet place to listen and talk. And you want to set boundaries with your housemates or your family, like, hey, I'm doing this interview. Please be quiet. And then when you're actually doing the interview, remember, I've made this. There's the KISS, keep it short and sweet, but I've also written out PEC. So PEC is keep in mind that you can pause, remember to breathe, again, breathe and smile. You can take a pause by drinking water, as I have, or asking for more time to answer questions. E is make sure that you try to insert an example related to the question. If they ask you, hey, have you dealt with a difficult situation at work before? They say, yeah, I have. Add an example. That's what they're looking for. Add an example of how you can prove that you say what you have said. C is for clarity, which is just have a central point. Some people get lost in their own idea, so make sure that you have an anchor that you can go around when you're answering a question. You can bring it as a conclusion. And then knowledge, research the company as much as you can before you dive into the interview. So what do you actually research? What do you look for when you are applying for the company? You want to look at their history, their company goals, who currently works in the company, and who has worked in this position before. If that's something you can find, you can go on LinkedIn and look at the people who past worked in the company, and you can look like, oh, this is the kind of person that they've had before, and how you're helping them. Again, you're getting hired to solve a particular problem. So this is a quick if this and that for when you're doing job interviews. If you're really nervous about it and you don't know what to do, if they're asking you for your asking salary, instead of answering them, you want to ask them for their offered salary for the previous position, if there's a previous position that they have. Or you can say, hey, what's your range for this position? So then you can give your number. You don't have to be scared and say, oh, my pay is only this. You can ask them how much they are willing to pay. If you lose track of the questions, sometimes if they're overly excited like I am sometimes when I do interviews, you might lose track of the questions. So just kindly ask them to repeat the question or ask it in a different way. Or you can even ask them for an example. So if they ask you a super complicated question, don't be scared or shy away from it. It's like, hey, can you give me an example, or can you explain that question further? And if they cross a boundary, if they are and there are employees like this, a little bit skeezy, who are a little bit weird, just take a pause and just say, I'm sorry, I don't think I can continue this interview. You've made me a little bit more comfortable. I'm going to go. And when the interview is ending, ask them for the next steps to expect after the interview. Always ask them, okay, what can I look forward to? When can I follow up? When can I expect to hear from you? So then you know when to ask them for further help. So a few final tips as you are looking for jobs is never underestimate the power of a follow-up. I've hired assistants who sadly has fallen through the cracks, but then since they followed up, they were able to move forward. Grammar check everything, please, everything. And you want to make sure you, again, double, triple check information before you send it. Treat every interview with the same level of enthusiasm. If you've done interviews for a bit, it can be easy to kind of like feel a bit down because you haven't heard new news or you haven't heard any news at all. But you want to make sure that you're always putting your best foot forward. And if you fail, think about it as practice for the next one, to get better and better with as you go through the whole job process. And again, never take it personally. A lot of positions, there was just someone who was better than you. That doesn't mean that you were bad. That just means that they found someone who was a better fit for the problem that they were trying to solve. So never ever take it personally. I have a few three. These are three main books I recommend as reading. Mindset by Carol Dweck is just a great book on how to move forward in life. How to Influence and Influence People is a good book on how to become a better communicator and just a better person. And Obstacles the Way is whenever you do hit that, like you've gotten rejections right, left and right, how to get through it onto the other side. And if you guys want slide access, this is where you can take a screenshot. You go to leonline.com/Philippine workshops. This is now the access to this whole slides that I just shared with you guys, and you guys can go over it. You can't edit it, but you can review it at your own time. And yeah, any questions, any feedback also, I would love to know. And that is it for me.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that very insightful presentation, Ms. Lee. I'm sure our participants learned a lot about understanding the application process and how the participants can improve their ways in searching for a job. To our participants, please ready your questions as we will be proceeding with our question and answer segment momentarily. Pero bago tayo mag-proceed to our next segment, Ms. Lay, do you want to promote anything else po, such as your business, social media, and other contacts? Please feel free to do so po right now.
Well, yeah, so you guys can follow me everywhere else. I'm literally on almost every platform. So on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, it's just Leanne Lai Lacaba. For YouTube, though, I add a VA as in virtual assistant at the end. And I am currently also, just so you guys know, I'm currently hiring into XU. So if you guys are interested or have experience in being an admin or assistant, you guys can check out 2xu.com/hiring. And you can find our current open positions there.
Okay, so there we have it. Please support Ms. Lay. Now let's move forward to our question and answer portion. To our participants here in the Zoom chat and on our Facebook Live, please send in your questions. Um, Okay, so I have one anonymous sender. What What advice, Paul, would you give to your younger self?
Advice I would give to my younger self. It's a pretty good question. Um, I guess to make sure that I keep in mind that whatever people how people treat me is more of an indication of themselves than myself. That's a really deep one, but it's an important lesson that I've learned a lot. Is whenever I came from when I was still an employee, whenever it came to interact with coworkers or employers, it was really easy to take things. Again, that's why one of the tips that I have is don't take things personally. So I had to really learn on making sure that I keep in mind that a lot of the things that they how they treat me is they're going through something, they're going through life, and I should never really take it or be anxious about it. Just keep focusing on myself and what I can then do moving forward.
Okay, so another question from Mr. Rashid. How to stand out when applying for a job online?
So a lot of the different tips that I already shared is a lot of the ways that you can stand out. The main one, honestly, for me, is when you are applying for a job online. That means that it's a job that anyone from any part of the world can apply for. So the ways that you can stand out is actually to keep working on your skills. The more that you're able to focus on growing your skills, the more that you're able to show that this is something that you're serious about. This is not just a way for you to, have a job. The more that you can stand out, because then an employer will notice that, will see that, of like, oh, this is the kind of person that I want to hire and work with.
Okay, so another question. What impresses you the most when you are hiring someone from Miss Cassie Kate in our Facebook Live?
It's definitely if someone does the research. That's always the thing that impresses me. The other day we hired someone and it was so funny. Because she said, "Oh, ma'am, you live here, right?" I'm like, "What? You know where I live?" And it's because she did like deep dive research on my social media, and I was like, "I will take that down." I've taken it down now, but I'm like, "I will take that down." But that still impressed me. I'm like, that's a little bit creepy, but that shows me how your research skills are. So whenever people are like get to know our company really well, like look at the reviews, look at the people who have we've worked with, that impresses me always. Or if they do research on their own skill, if they own research on uh, the kind of work that they'll be doing, and they ask really smart questions about it. If they ask like, hey, if, for example, if I'm hiring for a writer, hey, how many words do I have to do a day? How many, X and X, Y, and Z do I have to do a day? That gives me a clarity of that they've done the research for the work that they're able to do.
Okay. Another question from Mr. JP Punzal. I have a question po about extracurriculars. What would you recommend? Would you recommend putting college organizations work in your resume?
Yes, only if you were some sort of officer for it. So that shows leadership skills, that shows that you rose the ranks or were picked to become a leader, or if you ran a project or an event with it. So you could say, project head for X or event coordinator for X, because that, again, that shows organization skills and leadership skills.
Okay, thank you. Another question again from Mr. Rashid. How can I be a great candidate even if I'm underqualified for a job?
By doing extra. That's the best way that you can just do it, is by doing the extra work, by being willing to do the extra work. Because if you are already underqualified, you need to prove yourself that, hey, this is something I want to build towards, and this is the work that I'm willing to do to be able to get myself to that next level.
Okay, another question from our Facebook Live. How can a fresh graduate build their portfolio without experience?
So a way that you can build your portfolio is there's different prompts on the internet that you can look into of different, like for example, if you're a writer, there's different prompts like, write, 10 things that you like about life. These are ways that you can already build the portfolio, even if you're working for yourself. That's something how you can build it. Another one is an example that I gave earlier is go on a Facebook group and ask like, hey, I'm looking for free work to be able to build my portfolio. What do you guys have? So that's another way that you can show your skill.
Okay. Another question from Miss Kazel Ann. How to handle emptions po during the interview?
What I mean by emptions, I'm not sure what that word means.
Emptions.
To Google. Yeah, even Google doesn't know what it is. It redirected me to emotions.
Emotion.
Emotions. Okay, yeah. So it is emotions. Um, if you're feeling anxious, breathe. That's the main thing. And I keep that in mind when I'm doing interviews. So I always tell the person, I can tell when they're getting nervous to just breathe. Just doing that before. You can do it even during, if you're getting too anxious. If you're getting a little bit emotional, you might be close to crying a little bit, you might be a little that you've gotten that nervous, just keep in mind that pause and ask for that pause. Even you can say, hey, is it okay if I take a few minutes? I think I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed. And just kind of, if you're on Zoom, you can turn off your camera, you turn off your mic, or you can even walk out a little bit if you're in an in-person interview. And it's okay as long as you tell them what's happening. And they if you're having some, and I've had applicants who've done this where they suddenly going through a panic attack or an anxiety attack, just ask for that pause and it's okay.
Okay, so another question: how do I build my confidence and self-esteem when applying for a job?
Just know that this is not something new. That's the biggest thing, is when just because you're doing it for the first time or the 10th time, people have gotten hired before. There's always going to be jobs out there that's going to be a better match for you. And to build that confidence is really knowing that you know your skill, that you know your craft. That's why my recommendation is to keep growing your own skills, attending workshops like these. So then you're working on yourself, and then you can bring that confidence as you are doing interviews and doing applications.
We have another question, Paul, from our Facebook Live. Via your YouTube channel, which playlist would you recommend the most for today's topics? This is from Paul Morales, po.
So we have different. I have different playlists that I've already listed out on my YouTube. When you check out playlists, there's one that's how to get hired online. There's one specific for how to become virtual assistant. So you can pick and choose whichever path you want to go through.
Okay, so do we have any other questions for Miss Lay? I have here our last question for today. What is the best career advice you've ever received?
Career advice ever received? That's a really good question because I give a lot of career advice. I guess the best one, and it's something that I've brought on as I've started my business, is to track everything. That's why one of the advice that I given you guys was to track your applications, track everything, because you never know if that's something important later on. And I don't mean like every little thing, but like track the people that you meet, track the people that you get to know, because that's someone you might be able to tap to later on. You want to track your achievements, your wins, because that's something you can lean back on. And you can track the courses you go through, the things that you learn, the skills that you've learned, because you never know if it's something that's going to be something that you need to take out of your pocket, like, hey, I can do this. Because that's something that as you keep learning and growing and scaling up in your job, it's something that you never know the problem that you'll be facing. So it's always good to track the things that you have and what you know.
Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you, Paul, Ms. Lay, for addressing the questions of our participants. And to everyone, please stand by for a while as we will be having a short commercial break before we continue on.
Been feeling left behind? Does the knowledge gap hinder your success? Worry no more, because Philippine Workshops is here to serve you. We provide relevant and valuable webinars, trainings, and workshops nationwide that will help you make your own opportunities happen. For more details, please visit our Facebook page.
Ang goal kasi ng company is to change the old style ng internship program sa Pilipinas. Some of the seniors na na-experience nila, nag-photocopy lang, nag-stapler lang, nagbutas lang ng cheque. So we don't want that. And I believe kayo din as aspiring interns, naghahanap din kayo ng right company na perfect para sa inyo.
I see internship as an opportunity for us students to experience practical working, explore career development, learning new skills, and of course, gaining knowledge in a field related to what we plan or decide to pursue someday.
Spending 40 hours a week required me a whole lot of adjustment, time management, and discipline.
Every day, merong morning briefing, and that's one of the best ways to start your morning actually kasi masasanay talaga yung katawan mong gumising ng maaga pa sa alarm mo.
WSAP taught me how to be braver and more confident. Because according to Mr. TJ Houston again, everything is a learning experience.
There's no better way of learning than through a hands-on experience. Working here helps me instill a sense of professionalism that is necessary for me to compete in the business world. Sitting on important meetings, calls, or presentation allowed me to learn about office etiquette, allowed me to learn about how you effectively communicate with others.
One thing I've learned there is growth. I was able to grow as a person. I was able to test my skills, especially my leadership skills, and to enhance my communication skills. With that being said, we are not only limited to tasks at hand, but we are able to go out of the comfort zone. We are able to talk to teachers, talk to professionals, and to open our eyes in the real corporate world.
My name is TJ Yuson. I'm the founder of Wedding Suppliers Association of the Philippines Internship Program.
Job interview. And by the way, thank you po. A friendly reminder to our guests, please fill out the evaluation form which can be found in the chat box here in our Zoom session or in the comment section of our Facebook live stream if you wish to avail an e-certificate for only 30 pesos. Again, this is only optional. The evaluation forms will be closed after some time, so make sure to accomplish them early. Now let us proceed to the awarding of the e-certificates as a gesture of our gratitude. This certificate is presented to Ms. Leanne Lay Lacaba in profound appreciation for imparting her esteemed knowledge and expertise in the event, landing on a job, practical tips, and how will you ace your next application. Given this 24th of June 2022 via Zoom meeting conference, signed by our founder, Mr. TJ Yuson, Mr. Jayesh Filarca, the brand head of Philippine Workshops, and Mr. Hedrick Mendoza, the Human Resource Department head. Next, we will be awarding the certificate of participation to our attendees. This certificate is presented to for their active participation in the event, landing on a job, practical tips, and how will you ace your next application. Given this 24th of June 2022 via Zoom meeting conference, signed by our founder, Mr. TJ Yuson, Mr. Jayesh Filarca, the brand head of Philippine Workshops, and Mr. Hedrick Mendoza, the Human Resource Department head. I would like to call on Mr. Jayesh Filarca, the brand head of Philippine Workshops, to give his closing remarks. Everyone, let us give him a virtual round of applause.
Hello, so good morning, everyone. Since this will be the last closing remarks and last webinar that I handled and conducted during my stay here on WSAP Incorporated, on behalf of Philippine Workshops, I would like to express my thanks, my warm gratitude to everyone, to the WSAP Incorporated Human Resource Department, wherein we successfully concluded 3 consecutive webinars this month of June during my term as brand head. And so let's give ourselves a virtual round of applause then. And with the consistent coordination of Miss Casey, the employee training development. And of course, I would also like to thank the PHW team, our multimedia, Miss Rand and Sir Mark, which is also part of our tech team, Sir Dovan and friends, and to Miss Sai, our host, the master of the ceremony. Thank you for everyone for successfully conducting this webinar. And also to all of our participants, this webinar would not have met the success it has without you. Your coordination has enabled us to conclude this successful webinar. And most importantly, I would like to express my appreciation to our guest speaker, Ms. Leanne Lay Lacaba, for sharing her knowledge, experience, and her expertise and providing us tips on how will we ace our future job application. It is a great pleasure to have you here, and we hope that we get a chance to invite you again to our future webinars. I would also like to congratulate each and every one of you for your dedication and active engagement in conducting this webinar. Job well done and congratulations to everyone. I hope our participants who joined our Facebook live stream and Zoom meeting will carry what they have learned today and applied it here to their future endeavors and careers. So once again, I am Jayesh Pilarca, the PHW brand head, and this ends my closing remarks. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for that, Mr. Villarca. Now let us commemorate this moment through a short picture-taking session. So everyone, please open your cameras and hold your smiles as we capture every page of our Zoom session right now. Smile lang kayo while we take some photos. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think that's done. On behalf of Philippine Workshops, we would like to thank our brand sponsors for today: Wedding Suppliers Association of the Philippines, Philippine Hotels Directory, Philippine Malls Directory, Online Pasalubong Center, Alabang Real Estate Directory, the Real Estate Directory, Accounting Portal Philippines, Philippine Travel Expo, Philippine Virtual Expo, Med Results Medical Services, and PaHome Service. Make sure to please support WSOP's upcoming events as well. And to Ms. Leanne Leila Cava, we would like to thank you again for being part of this webinar. To our participants and viewers, you can now visit our official website at www.philippineworkshops.com and make sure to follow Philippine Workshops Facebook page for us to keep you updated with our upcoming events. You may also reach out to us through our email, philippineworkshops@gmail.com, if you have any concerns or suggestions. Once again, I am Zaira Salutan, and this ends Landing on a Job Practical Tips on How Will You Ace Your Next Application. To our participants, you may now access the link to the evaluation form at Philippine Workshops Facebook page to avail for a paid e-certificate. Thank you so much to everyone and have a splendid day ahead.